A major Siberian Express will unload very cold temperatures across the lower 48, and this could be the coldest air in January since 2014. And that will be followed up by a major winter storm as far south as Florida and the Gulf Coast. We're going to get you to everything that you need to know in this forecast. Welcome back here to Weather on the Go. My name is Hunter, and if you are following along, make sure to subscribe to the channel. Follow along with all of my daily updates on this channel as we do two-a-days, late morning, early afternoon, and then again here in the evening. So make sure, again, subscribe to the channel, like the video, give it a thumbs up, and share this video with friends, family, and on social media. I definitely appreciate it. Let's look at our height anomalies, and simply just to put, this is a ridge of high pressure. Wherever you see reds, oranges, and pinks, and then you see a ridge of high pressure up here in Alaska. We also have a little bit of a ridge in the eastern United States. While we aren't seeing reds or anything like that, we're still seeing some notable warm air as we go and you step out the door in the Midwest this afternoon into the plains. It is definitely much warmer out here today, and here are your morning lows we saw this morning, and not bad of a start. We saw areas like the Twin Cities at 32, 36 in Des Moines, and 35 in Omaha, and we have since warmed up into the 40s, even taking a run at 50 degrees as far north as the Davenport Quad Cities here in Illinois and Iowa this afternoon. And you can see a lot of those 50s, that 50-degree line going all the way up into Kentucky, southern Illinois, southern Missouri, and into Kansas this afternoon as well. Let's look at the weather alerts across the United States. We are dealing with a lot of wind out there. Of course, if you can imagine, with a warmer pattern followed by very cold air, there's going to be a lot of momentum here in the atmosphere, and that's going to create a lot of wind. We have wind advisories in South Dakota, parts of North Dakota, Minnesota, even some up here in the UP of Michigan, wind advisories even down here in West Texas, into portions of New Mexico, high wind warnings also in play in those darker tan shaded colors. We have winter weather advisories in the lighter purples, blizzard warnings, a couple of them here in the northeastern North Dakota, far northwest Minnesota with some of that snowfall blowing around. Let's look at the maximum wind gusts in miles per hour as we go through Saturday, January 18th, and notice we do see the strongest of those winds up there where those blizzard warnings are, potentially gusting up to 60 miles per hour here in the open areas of northeast North Dakota and northwest Minnesota. Also with those high wind warnings, wind advisories down here into New Mexico and West Texas, that's where we can see wind gusts anywhere between 40 and 60 miles per hour there as well. This afternoon, we got a clipper system moving through southeastern Canada, and it is going to be clipping the upper Great Lakes region with some snow, the Arrowhead of Minnesota, the UP of Michigan this afternoon. We also have some snowfall back here in the higher elevations of the Rockies, back into Wyoming, and that could spread some snowfall into Colorado this evening as well. Most of the snow from our clipper system will remain over the Canadian border into Ontario and Quebec, but here comes the southern branch of the jet stream, and this is going to spread some rainfall across areas of St. Louis, down here towards Memphis and Nashville, Indianapolis, and it's because of those warmer temperatures we have today. This will start as rain overnight tonight, and then we'll shift it over to snow as we go into Saturday. It's not going to be a blockbuster snow event by any means, but definitely finishing off with some snow Saturday, and then into Sunday, we got some moisture moving up from Kentucky into West Virginia, and Maryland, over toward Delaware there. That could be snow, rainfall in the Carolinas there on Sunday. Then as we go into Monday, a pretty dry day, but a very cold day. We're going to show you those temperatures here in just a few minutes. Let's look here at those precipitation totals as we go through Monday, Martin Luther King Day on the 20th. Notice with rainfall amounts anywhere from a quarter to as much as 3/4 of an inch of rain. Most of that falling from the mid-Mississippi Valley in the mid-South over here toward the Ohio Valley and up toward the mid-Atlantic. And then some of this could be on the backside, changing over to snow, and we could get a couple inches over here as well. But looking also from Montana down into Wyoming, Colorado, and even back here into Kansas, the Oklahoma, Texas Panhandle, parts of the northeastern New Mexico, could be seeing a few to several inches of snow as well, mainly in the higher elevations with this. But again, it's not going to be a blockbuster snow out here to the east, just seeing anywhere from around a half an inch to upwards to 2 inches across parts of the Ohio Valley, the eastern Great Lakes, down the Appalachians as well into western North Carolina and then into portions of the Northeast. Again, not a blockbuster snow, maybe just enough to shovel here in some areas, and some of this may not even stick because of the rainfall preceding it. Up here into eastern Canada, Ontario, Quebec, Newfoundland, and Labrador, we're going to be seeing the potential of a few inches of snow as well through your Monday, Martin Luther King Day up here in eastern Canada, keeping an eye on that. Let's look here at the cold temperatures that are likely to come behind an Arctic or Siberian front as we go into Saturday. Notice it's flooding into the central U.S. here on Saturday. Temperature anomalies at this point, 20 to 30 degrees below the norm. And then Sunday, that makes it all the way known here into the south, across coastal Texas, northern Mexico it reaches, the Gulf Coast, North Florida. You're going to be seeing temperatures below to well below normal there on Sunday. And looking at those weekend temperatures, afternoon highs, yes, we're into the single digits below zero for highs Saturday afternoon, up into places like Montana, North Dakota, and northern Minnesota. The real Siberian air is up to the north here into southern Canada. That's where those temperatures for highs will be in the teens to 20s below zero. You factor in the wind chills, those are the areas that we're going to be seeing in Canada, Saskatchewan, Manitoba, and Ontario, where wind chills dangerously cold, if not life-threatening, to 40 below zero, but still very cold, bitterly cold here, 15, 25, even 30 below here at times with our wind chills Saturday afternoon in parts of the northern U.S., especially up into North Dakota, Montana, and Minnesota. Sunday afternoon gets even colder. We see some double-digit below zero temperatures here into Minnesota and North Dakota. And those wind chills, again, bitterly cold, 15 below to as much as 30 below zero. So wind chill advisories, likely even wind chill warnings, may be warranted up here across parts of the northern plains, the upper Midwest, and into the Great Lakes heading into the weekend. Then as we go into Martin Luther King Day, that's when the bottom drops out. Very strong, high pressure, 1048, 1050, somewhere in that ballpark, and that's pretty strong. Our temperature anomalies there are going to be 40, 50 degrees below the norm here across the Front Range, into the plains and the upper Midwest, and that will swing over into the Ohio Valley here. And just to kind of show you how intense this cold is, this is the only area besides Siberia that is actually going to be this cold on Monday, January 20th, anywhere across the earth. So that is just showing you how cold those temperatures will be. Up here in Alaska, the same day, Monday afternoon, Martin Luther King Day, temperatures approaching the freezing point in some areas, into the low 30s, and what goes up must come down. So if it's getting warm in Alaska, it's going to get cold in the lower 48. So here we go, Monday afternoon, Martin Luther King Day, January 20th. Look at the freezing line all the way south here into the deep south, and our wind chills up here into the upper Midwest could be approaching minus 35, minus 40 degrees here across parts of the Dakotas, Minnesota, Wisconsin. So wind chill advisories again, wind chill warnings again will likely be warranted in a lot of these areas heading into next week. And even beyond that, between Tuesday, January 21st and Sunday the 26th, we're going to be seeing that colder air hanging around across the Gulf Coast and up the East Coast, and that will set a foundation for the potential of a major winter storm as we go into next week across the South, the Southeast, and up the East Coast, because you have the trough up here into portions of the eastern Canadian provinces, and actually this is really the tropospheric polar vortex. You got the blocking up here in Alaska, allowing that jet stream to lift up to Alaska and then dive down across the deep south, and that would be the storm track along the Gulf Coast and just off the southeast coast, and that would be a favorable track for a major winter storm with heavy snows and ice across the deep south, even as far south as Houston, New Orleans. Look at this. We have snowfall on the European model Tuesday, the 21st, here in Houston, Lake Charles, New Orleans, maybe as far south here even as Gulfport, Mississippi. Tuesday night, we zip that across into southern portions of Alabama, South Georgia, the Carolinas, even like Myrtle Beach, up here to Wilmington. We could be seeing snowfall, ice storm threat here from the Savannah, Georgia area, Jacksonville, over toward Tallahassee on the European model, and then we zip that along as we go into Wednesday. Cold air suppresses Wednesday, Thursday, and then maybe a system trying to show up there Friday that could bring even maybe some more snow or a rain-snow mix to parts of the Dixie Alley on Saturday before that zips across, kind of suppressed off the northeast coast as we go into Sunday. Looking at the GFS, the American model on Tuesday, it's very similar, maybe just a tad bit further to the north north, but still giving a signal for wintry precipitation in Houston, Lake Charles, New Orleans, Monroe, Louisiana, Jackson, Mississippi, over here toward Birmingham, Tuscaloosa. Tuesday night, very similar, maybe more of an ice storm threat for Myrtle Beach, Charleston, South Carolina, up toward Wilmington on the GFS model. The warm nose is a little bit stronger on here, which keeps most of Florida all rain, but that's something to keep an eye on. And then cold air suppresses on Wednesday and Thursday, and the GFS model has a little bit of something developing in the east on Friday, Saturday, and into Sunday. Again, some timing issues the longer we go toward the weekend. We'll kind of refine that as we get closer. So here's overall the European model, a depiction of snowfall from Tuesday the 21st through Sunday the 26th of January. Notice, yes, we even have snowfall falling over the open waters of the northern Gulf potentially. So from central and east Texas, including from Victoria all the way up to Houston, Lake Charles, Shreveport, Monroe, Alexandria, Baton Rouge, New Orleans, you guys get it. Some heavier snow potential. And then look at that, North Florida, we could be seeing that on the European model, and a notable ice storm from the Savannah, Georgia area on this model, down to Jacksonville and over to Tallahassee, maybe even as far south as Orlando. The GFS, the American guidance, is even more bullish on the snow totals around the Houston area, up toward Tyler, Texas, into Louisiana, along the Gulf Coast, up toward the Carolinas, and still pretty much showing an ice storm, notable from southeastern Alabama through the panhandle of Florida, South Georgia, and the Outer Banks here of the Carolinas, Charleston up to Myrtle Beach and Wilmington. Keeping an eye on that on the GFS model, just a little bit warmer of a solution. The Canadian model, the GEM, has a little bit of a cold bias, but just to kind of show you this, it has a formidable snowstorm, an historic snowstorm here for the Carolinas, Georgia, and across the Gulf Coast next week, and it has an historic ice storm as well across South Georgia and into North Florida with the ice. That is really not that far from Tampa Bay in Orlando, if you can believe that, on the Canadian model. But again, it does have a colder bias, so that's why I consider this probably an outlier. But again, cold air moves faster, so it could also be a scenario that could be in play, but I think it's more of an outlier. I think the European and the GFS models are definitely onto something. So an historic winter storm is potential down to the south along the Gulf Coast into the southeast as we go into next week. Very cold temperatures. I'm not sure if it's going to be historic air, but Siberian Express is going to open up the coldest temperatures of the season to the United States. We'll keep you covered on that. Subscribe to the channel, turn on post notifications. We have another video coming out this evening. Like the video, especially if you did enjoy it, and also to help out getting this information to more and more people. Share this video with friends, family, and on social media. Again, that goes back to sharing this information to more and more people. I definitely appreciate it. And if you have any questions, comments, concerns, make sure to jot them down in the comment section below. And I hope everyone has a warm rest of their Friday out there.